Jennifer, I'll let you just take it away.
Awesome. Since we have a smaller group, which I'm really excited, so we can deep dive, I would love it if we can have a couple people to volunteer, maybe like two or three, so we can actually do, we can actually look at your profile and then go through and just kind of talk through it as a group of basically just kind of brainstorm it out. And I think that that might really help everyone then brainstorm out for themselves. So if you can tell me your name and then maybe like what focus would be. I'm going to pick on you, Francie, because I think she said she'd be
Yes,
open to it. Did she leave?
I'm totally open to
Did I
it.
see it? Okay,
I'm
awesome.
working on getting my page set up or up.
Okay, got it. So Linda, Marilyn, and Francie. Okay. So let's look. Let me pull that up.
Who are you going to start with, Jen?
I'm going to start with Linda.
Okay, awesome. So Linda, do you have some specific like things you're like, when I look at my profile, I go, ooh, kind of a things, or something that you are really would really love us to focus on? I mean, we're going to go through a bunch of the different things, but just in case there's something you'd really like us to focus on.
Yes, I just wanted to, start being more active on LinkedIn and then just kind of narrow down to some of the things that I want to talk about, and start being more consistent with it. And my goal is I'd love to work in the venture capital field. I've been an entrepreneur for a while, and so I'm looking at some outside jobs, remote jobs with different VC firms. And so I'm really kind of trying to you know get everything centered on like startups and funding and that sort of thing. I'm sort of not quite sure where to start or like
Yeah.
how to make it consistent and make it like worth people's whiles. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for that information. That's awesome.
That's really good. So Linda, let's start with, I think your photo is good. I think your photo is great. I don't know what that is in the background. Oh, economic development. Okay. And then it's got the that piece on the top. Okay. So when you say startup, is your goal then to actually have a job working for a investment firm or a VC?
That's correct. Specifically, I'm
Okay.
looking at a company called Angel List Ventures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Well, you should just be showing up on their LinkedIn feed all the time then. That'd be great. So I think the first thing that we could do definitely would be to look at the top piece right here as we talked about. So my first, if that's the goal and that's where you want to go, I would even put something up here of, because you started two different businesses, right?
3, I think.
3. Okay. So I would start with here, and then I think Adrian, you mentioned Canva. So if you guys go into Canva on this part of it, it'll actually provide like a template that's the right size for LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys can fill out that piece of it on Canva right there. And again, it doesn't have to be super fancy, but some of the pieces that I would put up here, and I've even seen it, it can even be aspiring to
Yeah.
do the multiple founder, like what you've already got on there right now, and then aspiring, what would you say, Adrian? Aspiring VC?
Yeah, I mean, what position would you be wanting to get within the VC world? Would that be kind of business development within VC, like you're trying to recruit startups?
The positions that they've advertised that I like are kind of on the operations side, and what
Okay.
they have is like these rolling VC funds that a lot of people can participate in, and put money in. And so it's that like really knowing their platform well, organizing, fundraising, attracting investors, attracting startups, all of that.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I would really focus on your experience in the operational side of your startups then. So like Jen said, you know, experienced entrepreneurs, experienced startup entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's
You
what I
know,
would put right here.
yep, I'd put that there too. And, you know, something, you know, who loves operations or something, you know, who excels at it, you know, and so some of it is you are repeating some of what's down in the bottom to some degree or another. But you can even do like more bullet points in the graphic at the top, you know, experienced startup, loves operations, you know, something, and threes is usually good. You usually want an odd number of stuff. So either 3 or 5. 5 would be too much for this area. So I'd stick with 3. You know, what are your 3 top things that you would want Angel List to immediately recognize you for? You know, that you have experience in startups, so you can start talk their language about experience and operations, and maybe like Jen said that you're looking for a position. So as brief as you can be, I would put them up there. Where is Angel List Ventures based out of?
They are in California. They have offices in different places, New York also, but
Yep.
mainly in California.
Okay. So sometimes what you can do with these pictures, with these headline areas within Canva is, for instance, if the company was founded in a place or headquartered in a place that had very recognizable landmarks, like St. Louis or New York or something like that, you could pull a, you know, stock photo in Canva that had something that was recognizable there, and then put your, and kind of have it faded out and put your stuff over it, because that's going to resonate with wherever their headquarters are, and that's going to connect. It's kind of like dress for the job you want, pick a photo for the place that you want to be, and it shouldn't be obvious and like in your face. That's why you kind of want it in the background, but it's subtle. It's kind of that subliminal, you know, I know enough about your company to have researched it enough to know what's going on.
And so what I would do, Linda, is I would take a couple profiles of people in the VC world too,
Mhm.
and very much like, you know, I mean, copying is great flattery, right? So very much like you're copying, you know, similar style to maybe what he's done, if that fits you. But look for some of those key terms in that. It really is going to make a difference whether they choose to connect with you. It's the first thing they're going to do is look at your profile. So definitely having those pieces up there, and then kind of pick a style of what you feel like fits you best, whether it's somebody like him or Cher. I'm guessing maybe probably more his style with the industry that you're looking at going into.
Mhm.
And then this can be, again, like what Adrian's saying, the dress for success part. This can definitely be the piece where you talk about what you want to be doing based on what you have done. So, you know, I've helped scale multiple startups, looking towards working in the VC industry or something that's very specific like that. I think that's, the more clear you are, the better on that
Mhm.
part of it.
Yeah.
And then I would definitely fill out this section here, and I would fill out this section here. So I love your strength finder. That's great.
That is really
Um,
cool. And your Briggs profile, that's awesome.
yeah, that's really good. So I would definitely fill this out more. This is pretty resume oriented. So, I mean, I think these things are really good, but I would have even right at the top of it, I am passionate about working in venture capital. This is why I'm passionate about it. I feel like I have these skills to bring to it, and this is what I'm going for. And then once you have this part of your profile really filled out, and you fill this out a little bit more, just of like what your experience is there, I would add some graphics to this to break this up a little bit. Like, this is a really good question.
Mhm.
But I would add either some emojis or some graphics to break this up. And then if you can do a screenshot of even your website or something you've done there, that would be really good.
Mhm.
And then I think the rest of it is fine. It looks good. So then once you have that done, then the next step would be searching. And I would try to connect with, you know, either people that are directly at that company or other VC firms. And the more that you connect with other VC firms that people that they're connected with as well, so you can actually go deeper into researching them. But the more that you connect with groups and other companies and people that are connected that way, the most effective way, we didn't even get to talk about this on the first one, but the most effective way that I have found to actually get connections and sales and offers and all kinds of things like that actually is not the content that I'm putting out there, it's the content that I respond to.
Yep.
So what happens is when I start responding and I start adding comments in these different sections, LinkedIn takes that algorithm that I'm going to now start showing up on all the other people that do the same thing.
Mhm.
So it boosts my profile hugely when I'm commenting on other people. So that's why it's so important who you're connected to in here.
Mhm.
But if you can
Right.
spend, 10 minutes a day responding and just commenting and sharing, that's why people are so active on this, 95 comments. You really start seeing a lot because that is getting them a tremendous amount in back. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? And like what that plan would look like, Linda, to kind of achieve that?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'm excited for you. I want to hear how it goes.
Okay.
Let us
Okay.
know. I know I really am because I think it's going to work.
Okay,
mean, I
sounds
really-
good. I will.
I really do.
Hey, Jennifer,
Okay.
I have a quick question for you about, who you're linked to.
Yeah.
I have nearly 2,000 connections. Should I go through them and remove ones that don't make sense?
100%. I had 5,000 and I'm down to 2,500.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, when I had 5,000, my feed was filled with stuff that was not, it did
Relevant.
not relate to what I was going for at all. And it's not like I didn't take out friends and stuff like that because, of course, those are like your referral sources and people like that. But people that just were not connected to any group or anything that I wanted Beacon to be connected to, I removed.
Mhm.
Because most of them, it was in the beginning when LinkedIn started. I didn't really know. I was just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'll friend
There
you,
was
and then
a-
you can send me
there was
spam. Great.
Where like the more people you were connected with, the better is what the impression was, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
But that has definitely changed recently, and it's weird because I've been starting to do this as well and purging my list, and it's a little weird to be like, okay, you're the 25th person that I've unfriended or whatever, but it is already, just after doing it for about a week, it's already making a change in my feed.
Are
So
people notified when you remove the connection?
Yeah.
It's not,
not
okay.
that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Unless they went to go look in there to find you in their friend list and you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
That
But
would be
yeah, and we're not advocating removing friends. I mean, obviously that's wonderful, but it's the people you really don't know, and they really don't have any bearing. So if you guys do a combination, I would almost guarantee if you did a combination of removing, say, 100 people in the next month, and you committed to commenting on, just a couple days a week, you committed to commenting on posts of people that are in the industries you're interested in. I bet if you guys reported back, you would not only see your profiles go up by like 500 to 1,000%, but you would actually start getting some actual leads.
Mhm.
I mean, those two things right there have like the most effect on the algorithm. Obviously your profile should be filled out so that people do want to connect with you. But as far as like direct actions, those two would be great.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna thank you, Linda, for letting us use you as a guinea pig. That was awesome.
Of course, anytime. If I can ask a quick question,
Yeah.
Do you guys recommend reaching out to people via InMail at all? Or is
Yes.
that kind of you do?
Yeah, it's all about what you say and what your intent is. So there's absolutely no problem with email if you're not using it to spam. So if you're really trying to connect with people, like I remember you sent me something and it was really nice. It was like, hey, I want to connect with you because I'm interested in this, or I want to chat with you about that. That's great. I mean, that's a real connection. That's like, you go to people expect that on LinkedIn. It's just like a network marketing meeting or something like that. You expect people to come up to you and talk to you. You just don't expect them to immediately want something from you. you know,
Or
so,
virtually shove their business card in your face.
right.
You know.
So no, I would say go for it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And is that right, Marilyn? Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'll
Love your
take.
photo.
Thanks. I do need to take what I was gonna say, like how many every so years should you take a new headshot? But so for me, I've never really been active on LinkedIn. It wasn't until about maybe 5 months ago when I started going to business school kind of prospective events, and I was talking to admissions people, and then I noticed that they were looking at my profile after I met them, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is not up to date, because I feel like in Alaska we haven't been using it as much as people in the lower 48. So I was like, okay, I've got to update this. So I did. I've now a little bit, I've gone in more to, instead of say a summary of my company or where I work, more on what I do. So I know I still have to go in and tweak, but what I really want to work on is, am I visually, like when people are looking at me, I look like a strong leader in my community. I'm doing a good job, like, you know, my positions. Also, I don't know how to reach out to people when it comes to like endorsing my skills. Like I'm like, how do I approach that? Because right now I don't have a lot of like endorsed skills, and I'm just like, okay, how do I improve all of those things? So I don't know if that was.
Yeah, totally.
I can jump in on the endorsing skills piece. That one, it just takes some grunt work from the standpoint of just going in and just asking people to endorse you. So there's usually, we won't see it from this side because we're viewing your profile, but when you go in from your side, you just kind of spend a little bit of time every week and just send out those requests. People are usually very gracious and happy to do it. If they're people that are regularly checking their messages, because they will get notifications that you've asked them, you know, to give you an endorsement. Just make sure, and this seems like a no-brainer, but you would be surprised how many I get, that you're actually asking people to endorse you for something that they have experience with you. So I've gotten some really random ones from people that I know, but they want me to endorse them for something that I've never done with them before.
Okay.
And it's like, I'd really want to endorse you, but I've never, you know, I've interacted with you on a board, not with you as, you know, maybe something that you do in your job position kind of a thing. So sometimes I'll actually, if there's somebody I know pretty well, I'll actually message them back and be like, you asked me for this endorsement. I really want to endorse you. You know, I'm going to endorse you for this other thing because that's something that you and I have engaged on. So it feels really genuine from my standpoint. And that's usually received really well. I don't do that if I don't have a really good relationship with that person or know them pretty well already. But you want to be able to put that person that you're asking for that endorsement in the best light possible and set them up to give you a really good endorsement.
Okay.
But I find, you know, again, people are really pretty happy to give you endorsements when you're matching up the right person with the right endorsement request, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And a follow-up with that, and having, how popular or how important are recommendations? I've noticed, I've seen some profiles, and at the bottom they'll have like people will be like, oh, you know, so and so is amazing at this and that. I would, you know, work with them on this project, or take them up as a client, you know, things like that. How important are recommendations?
They're not as important as they used to be, because most people really are looking at what we call above the fold. So most people, when they go to your LinkedIn profile, are just right here. So
Mhm.
that's why like this piece has become, the header has become so important for social proof, because that's, you know, a lot of times they just click, do I trust, do I like this person or not? So if you can get a couple, you know, the way that I've done the referral thing is I've been thoughtful about it, like Adrienne said, and I've reached out to people. I've usually given them an endorsement first. You know, we've worked on a project together or something like that. You know, and I just say, hey, we worked on this. I'd like to endorse you for this, or send you a recommendation. You know, if you want to return that to me, that'd be wonderful. But, you know, having one or two would be great. It's not gonna, it's not a killer to the
Okay.
profile.
I
It's
would,
very much like websites where most people stay right here.
if I'm looking at somebody to hire somebody, I definitely go to that section though. Um,
That's
so,
true. I'm thinking more business.
right. So if just from an owner who's does a lot of recruiting and a lot of review stuff, LinkedIn is one of the first places I go to see how well they filled out their profile, what they like, what they comment on, and I look at their endorsements. And part of what I'm looking for is, does it line up with what's in their resume? You know, I don't expect it to match perfectly, but I expect there to be some commonality there, because that shows again a level of professionalism and transparency. So
Yeah.
if it's ever from a recruiting standpoint, I would say it would be more important to have those filled out if you're ever in a job seeking kind of a position.
Good
Yeah.
to know. So looking at me right now, this needs improvement. I know it does. And I just added the about section last month. So that's new. And it was focusing much more on almost like what I do outside of the office and other of my strengths. But
Your header would be the first thing I would change, and I would put your top 40 under 40 up here. I would add a couple pieces of social proof. So even if it was, marketing director, top 40 under 40, and then maybe one other thing, did you do Leadership Anchorage? Are you part of that?
yeah, yes. I did Leadership Anchorage and I lead the alumni group.
Oh, that's huge. So
Definitely put that on there.
I would have those three things up there. I'd have top 40 under 40, Leadership Anchorage, and they can be kind of small, like a little bit in the background, like maybe just like this.
Oh my God, guys, I'm in too much because I'm also in the art commission for the municipality. So I am a commissioner, but it doesn't say that at the top. So now I'm realizing like what.
And she's on the board of the AMA.
Okay, well,
Just saying.
so whatever your focus is, whatever is like you're thinking long-term career, it sounds like marketing is like really your passion. So AMA, top 40 under 40, pick three basically is all you need. And then I would take out the background of Alaska, so something kind of clean, professional, like doesn't need to be fancy, but has those three pieces of social proof. And then in this part, I would change that as well. So you're definitely not just a marketing director associate. I mean, that's wonderful, but you got all these other things. So, what type of work are you doing in your job? What specifically are you doing that you're bringing value? And then what are you doing? It sounds like you have a lot of nonprofit. So I'd put some of the nonprofit pieces in there too. Not necessarily titles, but the type of value and the type of work that you're doing. So kind of like the same advice to Linda, like where she was more operations and that, so make sure you highlight that. That's going to make a huge difference right away. People will just instantly kind of click on it and go, oh, okay. This is somebody who's definitely doing these things, going places.
Yeah.
And then I would definitely flesh out the about section as well. And if you go to like Sarah Qatari's, like we were looking at, or any of those, she's got that example where she's got like sections, of more, like you could definitely just go into detail about like.
Yeah, you could break out marketing, you could break out nonprofit, you could break out leadership. Like I would break those different pieces out, especially since you've got so many different pieces going on. And that way you can kind of dig into each one of them and they're all there, and whoever's looking at it is going to really resonate with one section or multiple sections, but they're going to really resonate with some specific things.
All right, that was good. Thank you.
And then my challenge to you would be, once you get that done, so really do the activity part. So really focus on.
I have a note on there when you mentioned about the comments, and I'm like, I am not commenting. And I think I haven't commented because I'm not really familiar with the community. So I'm like, I don't know this person. Am I supposed to comment? Do I give a thumbs up? So it was more that reason, like a connection like that person, or they commented, but I wasn't sure if me as a random person could do that.
Yeah,
totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll speak to, I know there's men and women in this group, but I will speak to the women in the group that women tend not to put themselves out there as much, and they tend not to engage as much, and that is hurting us in business. So go for it.
All right. That was really good. Thank you.
Sarah Katari has a great little formula, not little that, but a great simple formula in the chat that is really helpful for putting
Yeah.
together headlines. So definitely check that out as well. That's great, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
So excuse her. Well, and she's going to give a good 15-20 minutes on her content stuff, because I really want you guys to get that. She's doing some great stuff with that too, but that's a really good start, Sarah. Thank you. Okay, and then let's go to, I think it was
Francie?
Francie. Yeah, how do I spell? I know I've got you in here, Francie. How do I spell your name?
Right there.
There you are.
Yes,
Yep.
first one.
Okay, so tell us what your goal is.
Well, I guess I need to make it a more about what I do now. You know, I have my about is, you know, just completely off, because now I'm a development director and a communications director. So,
Okay.
you know, I build relationships with people and invite them to donate to us and participate in our events, as well as, you know, getting information out to the public about what we do, because so many people are unaware that we're here, and many of them think that we're the Alzheimer's Association, which we're not.
Right.
And, you know, they're a national organization. They do great work on, you know, getting on advocacy for elder issues, and in both Juneau and, you know, all the state capitals, as well as in Washington, D.C. And, you know, we focus on on training caregivers how to be better caregivers, how to take care of themselves so that they can give care appropriately. And so, so I'm kind of doing two different things for the organization.
Okay. So are you comfortable using your personal LinkedIn? I mean, are you already using it to like reach out to people about the organization?
No,
Okay.
that's part of the reason that I signed up. I signed up for this because I want to do more, because even though most of our donors appropriately are individuals, I would love to, you know, make sure that business owners know about us, and you know, if they if they have any employees who have parents who are, or family members who are living with dementia, that they can get our services here. Most of them are free, not all of them, but most of them are free. And that we can provide training at their place of business. That would probably not be free, depending on the training. But it's, I don't know if you all know this, but right now there are 12,500 people in Alaska that are affected by Alzheimer's or related dementia. And that's supposed to jump up 90% in the next 10 years, like 90%. So it's going to be something very big in our state that we're going to have to deal with. And so that's kind of my twofold
Okay.
situation.
So if you're comfortable representing, and that's a decision that everybody has to make. But if you're comfortable, you know, really having your personal profile be used for the business that you're representing, and it sounds like you are, then I would have a real specific approach to this. So on this part of it, I don't think it would be bad to even have maybe even like something specific to the Alzheimer's, you know, to basically what you're working on right now, and even a stat up there, something that would just pull people immediately. You could probably take a screenshot or similar from your website if there's something great there. And then if you are, and if you are going to focus heavily on the business side of things, or, what your position is there, just having a decent headshot, I think we already kind of covered that piece.
I do, and I don't know why it's not showing up for you.
I think you might have had 2 LinkedIn profiles. Is that possible?
Oh, I might.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing,
There, that's
yeah,
it.
I don't see.
Oh, wait,
this
no,
one?
that's not it. Huh. Interesting. It's the one Alaskan. That's the one, because I just plopped that photo of the elder in there.
Oh, it might.
Um,
Okay. Well, it might take a minute to show up, but okay. So then that part's pretty simple in the photo, and then in here, again, if you're comfortable doing, if you're comfortable representing them, then I would have something specific there about the work that you're doing for them and the impact in the Alaska community. So that way it's very targeted, and
mhm.
then people will go to your profile and they'll instantly know that is what this is about, and who you're working for and what you're focused on. So there's nothing wrong with being super specific like that. Not everybody feels comfortable doing that, but a lot of times when people are in, like, director of communication or C-suite, they really do target their profile to be more focused on the work. What are your thoughts about that, Adrian? Any negatives on that?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I
Okay,
think
and then
yeah, no, you've hit it.
okay, and then so Francie, in your settings, people are asking, or they're thinking maybe you're in private mode, and that's why it's not showing up.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe see if you need to publish that.
Nice
And then
setting.
I'm going to answer this question from Linda, and then I'm going to turn it over to Adrian and Sarah Katari for a little while. Yeah, the about section. So how to effectively use the about section, it really depends on what your goals are, Linda. So this is somebody who's really effectively, this is Matthews again. This is somebody who's using it very effectively as like a sales tool. They're giving a little bit of information about themselves, but they're really talking about like their experience and how they can help people again. So he's using this more like, this is why you should connect with me and do business with me. That's totally acceptable on LinkedIn and business. A softer approach, which I really like, is more, this section, which is like she's addressing, yes, what her top, things are that she's an expert at.
Mhm.
And you've got a bunch of things, right? For the whole VC community, you've got the operations, you've got the startups. So you could like section it like this and then end with the personal.
Well, one thing I'd like to jump in real quick on the
Yeah.
about section. I think it's really important to stop to talk in first person. I think there's always a question, whenever we're writing our resumes or a bio about ourselves or whatever, do we speak in third person or first person?
Mhm.
In LinkedIn, in your about section, talk first person, make it personal. I, we, our, but when you talk in third person in the about section, it puts you at a distance from the people that you're trying to connect to. And that LinkedIn and everything we're doing with the profile stuff today, it's all to take down those barriers between you and your potential people that you want to connect with. So speaking in first person is going to give you break down a lot of those barriers between you and whomever you're going to talk about or talk and try to connect to. But we hear that question a lot, like, should I, well, which way do I go? So my answer would always be first person.
So
Another way to think about it too is to consider it just like a longer cover letter. In a cover letter, you are talking about your experience, you're talking about the companies or the industry specifically, talking about your passions a little bit, but relating all of your experience and to the reason why you want to connect with this audience. I think specifically for you, Linda, pulling on your experience in the startup world will make you really, really strong in a venture capitalist firm, because that's their target audience is startups. So
Yeah.
you really know the ins and outs of the operations of a startup and can really apply that and give them insider knowledge to the VCs.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect example of cover letter. Yeah, because it really depends on what you're going for, right? So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and Adrian for about 20 minutes, and I will be back. But Sarah, do you want to, or Adrian, do you want to share a screen? Do you want to pull up LinkedIn, or I guess you guys can both do that, or Sarah, were you wanting to do that too?
I can do that, but I don't have the slides. So
Oh yeah, well, and it's more. I think we're just kind of going right on LinkedIn, right? Like if we're looking at content and those pieces as well.
yeah,
Definitely. We'll
absolutely.
figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Francie, did we address your questions and your concerns, what you were needing?
Yeah, I've got so much work to do.
Well, in your about section, I think you've got a real potential to do some storytelling in that and really share that that heartstring, that story. You know, and I liked even your point of the differentiation between, you know, Alzheimer's Association and, you know, what you guys are and what you do. So I think you've got some great material there to really connect with people.
Thank you.
So Ben, you're saying you're not really wanting to use your personal profile to promote your workplace. So you're asking how valuable LinkedIn would be. So this is Ben's question. He says, I don't want to use my personal profile to promote my workplace, and I'm not really a subject matter expert for customers who have inquiries. I question how valuable LinkedIn would be if using on a strictly corporate voice page, not an individual basis. I think that's a really good question, Ben. We end up talking a lot with owners of businesses and C-suite groups about, you know, how much do we have or ask our employees to represent where they work on their LinkedIn pages, and it's a pretty constant question. So Ben, to address your question, if you're not going to use LinkedIn to promote your workplace, then yes, you would probably want to do something on the corporate LinkedIn page. It doesn't mean that having a good LinkedIn profile isn't worthwhile. And I'll put it from this standpoint, I have no idea where you work, but if you were ever wanting to switch jobs or go somewhere else, having that LinkedIn profile already kind of fleshed out is definitely worthwhile. So really for you, it's kind of more promoting your work skills in your work environment. And it's kind of creating your own personal branding on LinkedIn for the eventuality, possibly, or, you know, inevitability that you'll be changing jobs. So it's a lot harder. Let's say you are ready to change jobs in the next 2 weeks, 30 days, then it's worthwhile. Okay, so then Ben comments, so not such a good channel for corporate communications. It is if you're in business development or you're connecting with other C-suites or other business development, it's absolutely a good channel for corporate communications. If I'm understanding what you mean by corporate communications, if you're talking internal corporate communications, no, I would not recommend LinkedIn for that. But if you are in business development, you're in sales, you're in marketing, yes, LinkedIn is powerful and it's good to reach out. Okay, external. So yes, generally speaking, external corporate communications is very good on LinkedIn, but you've got to be the person who is in the company that's part of your job, if that makes sense. So C-suite people, business development people, networking people looking for donations, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that too. If it's more of an issue of just not wanting to use your own profile, then you can take the learnings that you take from today and bring them to your work and bring them maybe either to the business owner or to someone else who might be more comfortable using their personal profile for whether it's sales, marketing, that kind of corporate communications to help develop the business. And I think that is just simply the most, like Jen said at the beginning, ROI you're going to find is using your personal page, and you're going to get the most reach, and you're going to connect with the most people, because at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a networking platform and people connect with humans. We don't really connect with faceless brands anymore.
Not as much, for sure. So Sarah, why don't you talk about how you develop your content strategy and part of how you execute that and that sort of thing, and then we'll open up to a few minutes to questions, and then we're going to move on to target market after that. And
Yeah.
if you want to share your screen to show any examples, go for it.
Yep, I've got a few in my arsenal ready to go.
Wonderful. I figured
I think the best place to start with thinking about content is really using your profile as a navigation tool here. So that's so perfect that we've already gone through these profiles and learned how to target your right audience in your headline, update your profile and your header in the image, and then of course go into that about and experience to really explore who you are, who you help, and how you help them. And I think that last part, that how you help them, is where your content is going to thrive. So as a general rule of thumb, I recommend thinking about 1 to 3 problems that you really solve, and these will sort of become your content verticals. So for me, I do content for a living. I create content. I ghostwrite for some people on LinkedIn, and I do other things. I've actually worked with Beacon before, helping them. And so I talk a lot about content, naturally, but I also talk a lot about social media in general, because algorithms and hashtag strategies and connecting with people on LinkedIn, that's such a broad concept. And then I also talk about just being a freelancer. You know, this is where my storytelling comes in, talking about crazy things that have happened because I was late to a meeting, or telling a story about how I used to be scared to ask for money because I was young and I was like, oh, well, I don't know. Those end up becoming my 3 content verticals. So when you're thinking about your target audience, who you've already really defined in your profile, and you're thinking about what problems you really solve for them, you can probably come up with 1 to 3 of those problems that you could talk about forever, because it's what you do best. So that's my first tip. Secondly, don't just talk about you. So something that happens a lot in LinkedIn content is you'll see people constantly posting their work, posting their results, posting about how great they are, and posting, you know, maybe some things that are a bit irrelevant to the problems that they solve. And so when you're talking about these problems, make sure you're really outlining what the journey is for the person who's reading it and what the lesson is. At a very basic level, you know, you want to start with a line that captures someone. So something like, I used to be scared to ask for money. I just posted that today. And that's like, okay, wow, that's a little bit interesting. I want to hear more. You bring them through the story about where you were at and then what you learned to kind of get out of that. And so, for example, I see a lot of people who are in financial advisory on LinkedIn. And so a piece of content idea for them could be, if their target market is young families who are maybe just buying a new home, or they're getting, you know, their second car, is talking about the fear of buying a new house. You know, it's really scary. It's super exciting, but you're worried that you're not going to put in the right offer, or you're going to not find the right house, or it's not going to have all your necessities, or it's not going to be by a school, or, you know, there's this whole list of things that you yourself really understand about your target audience that you can kind of pull on, and that way you can show that you can also help them, but you also understand them. And so being able to show that you understand where they're at, what they're going through, and that you are the solution, that makes content just really explode and show interest. So it becomes less about yourself and more about the problem that you're solving and giving. And you can do that in a variety of ways. I focus a lot on text posts, but PDFs work really well. Actually, PDFs are one of the most unique things about LinkedIn content, because you can't just like post a PDF on Facebook and have people click on it. When you post a PDF on LinkedIn, it actually shows up as a slideshow. So I'll kind of show you an example of that here. So this is Megan. She specializes in Lean Six Sigma and like process mapping. So it's a bit niche, it's a bit specialized, but when you have a PDF, it shows up like this. So you can actually click through it. You know, it's very simple design. You don't have to get really special with these things, but it's just another way of posting a list on LinkedIn in a kind of a more fun, engaging way. And you can see that they do really well. People like to click through these, they like to look through them. And then the content here is very short too. It's kind of just repeating the first question. So I'll click back to that to show you. So 8 things Lean Six Sigma is not. It just repeats the question, explains her side of it, a little bit of her opinion, and then adds a little call to action. And so call to action in this sake is just a question. If you just ask a question at the end, people will be likely to engage. And you can see that there is tons of engagement on this post. So that's at a very basic level, a couple of content ideas that you can try and you can play with, and you can really mix it up and just be very avid about giving first. Just give value, give your knowledge, share as much as you can think about, and stay within those 1 to 3 topics, and you'll become really well known in that one area. And then of course, if it's related to your profile, then people will just see you as an expert in that field. A couple more quick tips for content is that controversial works. And so by controversial, I don't mean political stuff. Don't post political stuff on your LinkedIn page, please. But something as simple as like, no, you don't need this thing that everyone thinks you need. That's a very simple post. And you can see that it worked pretty well. And then we just go into this, a story. We add a little bit of data that's relevant to her target audience. And we kind of break it down, like what really the process looks like. And so again, for the financial advisor person, this could be something as simple like, no, actually, you don't need to put 20% down on your new home. It's nice, but did you guys know that sometimes you can put 10% down? You just need to have a conversation with the person who's offering and negotiate. Kind of breaking down those common things that you always hear can kind of show that you are an expert because you've really dug into these industries and these knowledge. So I hope that makes sense with what controversial means. And then last but not least, recently LinkedIn allowed your personal page posts to be indexed by Google. So what that means at a very simple level is that your posts can show up as an answer to a Google search. So if you think about just simply answering questions, you can get a lot of really good reach. And then of course, you're also giving value. So at a very simple level, just answer questions that you hear all the time, answer questions that you had when you started out, answer questions that your family asks you about regarding your industry, answer questions that you get in DMs. Like there is so much out there to create content with. You just kind of have to look out for it.
Well, and asking questions, I think, is a great way to create connection too, because if you're, asking and then answering questions that are common in your industry or relatively common, as somebody's scrolling through, they're like, oh, I got asked that question last week, and it's going to be like, oh, I wonder if they answered it the same way I answered it, or man, I got asked that question just this morning and I had no idea how to answer it. But they're not alone, that it's not like they're the only one getting asked that question. It's that kind of connection of you're not alone. Like I've been asked that question, here's my answer to that question. And maybe they learned something, or maybe it's just, I totally connect with that answer because that's the way I would have answered it, or that's the way I did answer it this morning. And so there's that connection piece that is so vital to us as human beings, knowing we're not alone and knowing somebody else is getting asked those same questions, and also having to deal with the answers to them. So that answering questions thing, I'm really glad you brought that up, Sarah, because that I think is so vital to creating that connection piece on LinkedIn.
And that's where the stories come in too. So I had mentioned that one of my content verticals is talking about the life of being a freelancer. Obviously, not everyone here is a freelancer, but we've all had that awkward office situation where you hear someone talking about you in a cubicle next door and you're just like, I wonder what they're saying. Or you have had a question in an interview that totally like shook you and you're just like, I wasn't prepared for this. How did you respond to that? If you take these bits and pieces from your experience working or your experience being in your field, and you can write a story about it, or you can think back and say, oh, well, that was a little bit funny. I wonder if other people relate to this.
Mhm.
Then you post that on LinkedIn and you'll be so surprised how many people can relate to it. And I think that, as I've created more content on LinkedIn, as I've connected with more people, even outside of Alaska on LinkedIn, it's really broadened my understanding of how much is out there, but also like how much is possible in my industry, to be able to connect with people who live in Australia and they're dealing with the same things that I'm dealing with. It creates an incredible sense of community that I think is really lost in Facebook and Instagram and Twitter these days. You can find those communities, but again, because LinkedIn there's not that many content creators, people are really, really focusing on those who are creating content.
Absolutely.
And so to get into hashtags a little bit, because you can see that I put them here for Megan's content, you can see that these are pretty high level hashtags. If any of you are on Instagram, or if you dabble with, Instagram hashtags, you would know that something like management would probably have like 200 million followers because it's such a general hashtag. But on LinkedIn, they probably only have about 20 million, and you can actually click on these. Let's see. Okay, so 36 million. It's a lot, but it's not 200 million. And then you can see as well, Megan's thing pops up first, but that's kind of because I'm connected to her. And you can find other content within these hashtags that other people are talking about. So using hashtags is another great way to find other content creators in your industry as well. And you can use the search bar to do that too. So for example, let's do marketing. Oop, I'm in all caps apparently. And you want to click on the ones that are bolded because it'll take you to this different field of search. If you just type marketing and you don't click on a bolded one, you'll pop up with something like this, and it becomes more of a general search function, which is also okay. But I definitely recommend digging into the content side of things. So again, this is a great way to find people in your industry and what they're talking about, even if you're not connected to them. This is a great way to find posts to comment on and to talk to people with. Using hashtags is also a great way to have your content found. Of course, that's the most useful part of having hashtags on your posts. And as a general rule of thumb, I actually only suggest having 3. So 3 per post. So you can see on Instagram, you can have up to, I think it's like 38 hashtags or 40 hashtags on a post on Instagram, and people will saturate those hashtags and it'll be going for miles. And you're just like, okay, I see what you're kind of doing here, but wow, why do I have to scroll so much just to comment on this post? For LinkedIn, the best practice is 3 to 10, but I would really, really stick to 3. And then maybe have about 20 in your arsenal that you can switch up and play with. So again, keeping in mind with those 1 to 3 topics that you want to talk about, having about 20 hashtags that you can pull from, using 3 per post, and then also keeping in mind that your posts can be indexed by Google, meaning that they can show up on search engines. I think those 3 takeaways when it comes to content are going to really skyrocket your ability to not only create content that's interesting and engaging, but also continue to create content, because you'll start to develop this content brain where something funny happens in your day and you're like, oh my God, I could write a post about that. Or something happens in a DM and you just get a question 2 times in a row and you're just like, okay, I've got to write a post about this.
Mm-hmm. So Sarah, do you know if the hashtags are indexed by Google?
The hashtags are not. So the purpose of the indexing and why I mention it is it really comes down to that first line of your post. So as you saw with the PDF version in Megan's post, we basically had just repeated the question. That was the first slide. We did that because it was going to be indexed by Google.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. And Linda, that's a great question. She's asking how often we should post on LinkedIn. So my answer, and Sarah can contradict me if she wants, but my answer most of the time to anybody asking how often they should post on any social media channel is part of it's going to depend on how much capacity you have. So I would say for LinkedIn, a minimum would be 3 per week would be ideal. But if you can only do 1 per week and do it consistently, start there. The worst thing you can do is start and then stop and then start and then stop, or do 3 and then 1 and then 10 because because you didn't post for the last 2 weeks, and then go back to 1. So if all you can do consistently, so think about your time schedule, think about how much capacity do I have? And if realistically it's only 1 a week, that's okay. Start there and then build up from there, because Sarah's absolutely right. The more that you do it, the more you'll start thinking in the rest of your life about, oh, this could be a post, and whether you have a sticky note by your desk and you scribble it down, or I put notes in my phone because my phone goes with me everywhere. And if it doesn't exist on my phone, it doesn't exist. So, put it in your phone or whatever works for you. But I would say, again, if you can start with 3 a week, brilliant. But you don't want to spam LinkedIn. That's the other side of things. So it's not like Twitter. Please don't post 10 times a day. Sarah, do you have any insight on like how much is too much, or anything to add on the frequency of posting?
Yeah, absolutely. So there definitely is too much. And to use Megan as a case study, we were posting 5 times per week for her. But this is what I've noticed is we would post the same time every single day, posting same quality of work every single day. And 2 of her posts would do so well. And they would just keep getting engagement. And because those 2 were really taking up the limelight of the engagement, the other 3 posts kind of got thrown into the trash.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can, three times per week is great if you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But if, say, for example, you do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I guarantee you probably that Monday is just not going to get any engagement, or get less at least, because Tuesday's a prime time for engagement on LinkedIn, and Thursday's also a really good day. So when I start out, actually, I just did Tuesday, Thursday. That's what I did. I did it in the morning. So for me, I post around 9:30. Sometimes that's 10. Sometimes that's 10:30. Sometimes that's 9. Try to be as consistent as possible in timing as well. But again, like timing and even frequency and even hashtags aren't as high impact as just simply writing a valuable post.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like Adrienne was saying, and I will double down on that too, really think about how long it's going to take you and how much capacity you have to write quality posts, not just like today's Wednesday, happy hump day, like something that's valuable, answers a question, solves a problem. If you can only do that once per week, then do it once per week and do it really good.
And that's where the content strategy and having it mapped out ahead of time is really valuable, because if you block out an hour or 2 hours at the end of the month to plan for the next month, or the beginning of the month to plan for that month, whatever works for your schedule, planning out ahead of time the questions that you're going to ask and then answer, and actually planning that out will save you so much agony when it's Monday morning and you're sitting there and you're like, I'm supposed to post by 10 o'clock because Sarah said I'm supposed to post by 10 o'clock and I have no idea what to post. That's going to just take you 10 times longer, and it's going to be so frustrating. And trust me, you're not going to want to keep going, and it's going to burn you out. And then you're going to be like, I can't do this. Truth is you can, but having stuff planned out ahead of time is going to change your whole world. So you have that content calendar, and it can be something super basic. You're just typing it out in Word or in Excel. For those of you who love Excel, plan out the whole month and just say, I'm going to answer these 4 questions. Every Wednesday, I'm going to answer a question. And here's the 4 questions I'm going to answer. Every Monday, I'm going to share, like Sarah said, I loved her 3 vertical kind of a thing. So 3 areas. So, like I said, Wednesday might be answering a question. Monday might be, if part of your target audience are working moms, it might be the challenges of coming back on a Monday after the weekend with your kids, because all working moms have been there, right? So that could be a challenge piece that you're addressing, and it's Monday can be a little lighter because we're all trying to get our brains back into work mode. And so Mondays are great days to maybe have a kind of a lighter sort of a post. Wednesdays, or like Sarah said, maybe it's Tuesday, Thursday that you're going to focus on. But pick kind of your theme for each day and plan out, like a perfect world would be like a month at a time.
Mhm.
I have some very overachiever content creators who map out like 3 months in advance. I'm not that organized. I would like to. So if you can do a month at a time, you're doing really good. But it will really help you later on to not feel like you're staring at that white screen and not quite know what to post.
I would love to open up the floor to anyone who's thinking, well, I don't know what I'm going to post on LinkedIn, to offer you some free ideas right here and now.
Yeah, let's take a couple minutes if anybody's got any questions, or if they've got any ideas, if they want to know if that's a good idea.
Okay, we've got one from Paula that says, we recognize employee work anniversaries and also recognize new hires. That's perfect. Like, that's actually awesome, because you could talk not only just about that it is your anniversary, but also what this employee has done in that whole year, like how they've added to the team and what their strengths are. And, of course, how proud you are to have them on your team. And in terms of new hires, you could offer something like why you hired them. What was it about this person, and what projects are you excited to help them start on? Because that's kind of a soft plug for what you guys are working on, but also really focusing it again on that human aspect of business.
Oh, can I have a follow-up to that?
Mhm.
Because I have debated this. Do you ask them to write it, obviously in that third person, or do you write it? Like, who's ever in charge of the marketing at the office?
I would say you write it, but
Okay.
ask them maybe for a quote or some particular piece. Like, I love Sarah's idea of, like, maybe for a new hire, what project are they most excited about coming on, or something like that. The problem with sending it out to the employees, and I'm saying this as a business owner and leader, the problem with sending it out to employees are the deadlines. People don't like writing about themselves, and so it's really intimidating when they're supposed to write something, especially if they're a new hire and they're like, I don't know if it's going to be okay for the company or not.
Is this a test?
Right, is this a test? That's a great. So, but asking them, telling them, we're going to put it out, we're going to highlight it on social media. People love that. And saying, can I have one quote about what you're excited about in your first week here? Or so make it really specific so that it's easy for them to answer, and give them a deadline. Say, I need, we're so excited to put this out. Can you, here's my question. If you could please, however the nice way is for you to say that I need it by this time. If they don't get it to you by that time, post it anyway, and put, make up your own sort of a piece, because you'll wait for people for forever. Yeah, so we've tried it both ways, and that's what we've ended up going with, just because people are so intimidated to talk to themselves about themselves, or they're super overwhelmed. And it's like, yeah, I'll get to that, but it gets pushed down to the bottom of the priority thing. And then you're sitting there going, I really need to make a post. I really need to do this, and then your deadline passes, and then you forget about it, and then it just snowballs.
Absolutely. We've got one from Francie too that says, I would like to post our professional caregiver classes. I think a really good one for you, Francie, would be focusing on industry insights. So I know that for Alzheimer's Help and for senior care, there's a lot of people who don't realize the impact of senior care and really how much it can extend the livelihoods and the happiness of these people. So, relating those industry insights to what your classes really solve, the problems that you're solving or help accomplish, will be a great way to bring some data into that and just be like, hey, like, you can't ignore the facts. These kinds of things really help. And then relating it to your class. So, and this is how we help accomplish that.
Absolutely. Paula had a really good point. She says that they tend to ask their new hires, and I'm assuming birthdays as well, if people are comfortable with them posting it about social, and if they're comfortable sharing their photo, which is always a good policy for sure, especially in larger corporations. There are people that are uncomfortable with that. We don't tend to have to ask that because we're a marketing company and pretty much everybody's on social anyway. If they're not, they're probably not trying to get hired at a digital marketing agency. But no, your point, Paula, is great. Some people are comfortable with a post, but not a actual photo, or they don't like any of their photos. So we'll tend to try to get a snapshot for that particular post. Because yeah, a lot of people, they'll spend forever trying to find a photo that they're comfortable with, because almost none of us like our photos of ourselves.
Mm.
It's kind of one of those things. So I appreciate that contribution, Paula. That's great.
Yeah.
Sure.
And this is a great point to make too, that in any post that you make about another person and you tag them, if they actually respond to the post and comment, that really boosts its algorithmic engagement status, because they see that you tag LinkedIn as an algorithm sees that you tagged this one person in the post and they responded in a way that was meaningful. So, not just a like, but also a comment. And then that'll help push that post out to more people as well.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, and we'll tend to put them out on our company page and then have our staff reshare them from that company thing, because we do want them on our company thing, but a lot of our staff they're not spending the time to promote Beacon necessarily on their individual LinkedIn pages. But if we're putting something that we really want pushed out there on our company page, we'll sometimes send out a real quick notice to everybody of, hey, we put something up about our new office in Reno opening up, so everybody go share it, kind of a thing. And so that can really help with some of the engagement as well. And we find a lot of times for staff, they do want to help and they want to contribute at a certain level, but they're not necessarily comfortable almost pushing Beacon in and of itself on their page, which is perfectly fine. But when they can share a post, that's a way for them to contribute and engage without maybe feeling a lot of pressure. So, the personal page to the company page. Oh, I
Tasha,
don't think.
this is a little off topic, feel free to address later, but when I started the Anchorage Chamber, our company page was set up as a personal profile. Later, someone started a company page. We have way more followers and connections on our personal profile, but our company page is gaining traction. Is it okay to still be operating the personal profile until the company page has surpassed the connections and followers? Is there a way to merge them? Adrian, what do you think?
Well, I don't believe LinkedIn has a way to merge business and personal profiles. If it does, I haven't seen it yet. So as far as the personal page versus the corporate page has a lot of different options that the personal page doesn't have. I would recommend using the personal page to promote that there's a business page, and keep posting the link for the corporate page and encourage everybody to go over there and say, we're going to be shutting the personal page down at a certain point because it's moved over there, and then stick to your deadline. So, you can be really positive. Thank you guys all for this amazing engagement, but we're moving it over to here because most people are savvy enough now to recognize when there's a company is representing itself as a personal page versus a corporate page. And so there's a little, it can come across as unprofessional, not always, but it can, because what it kind of can come across as is, do they not know how to use LinkedIn? Are they doing the personal versus the corporate? It can be confusing for people. So I would really recommend that you shift everybody over to the corporate page, but use the personal page to do that. So yeah, I mean, I got one just the other day where somebody, invited to connect with me, and I'm like, is that a logo in their profile photo? Oh, okay. So this is a corporate. Oh, okay. I understand what they're doing now. But yeah, when a corporation, I'm expecting it to be a corporate page, not a personal page. So, but the personal page is a great tool to promote that other one and to get everybody moved over there. So don't just shut down the personal right away. use it to migrate everybody over, and like take a month to do it, or take 3 weeks to do it, or something like that, and then go ahead and make the leap and do it. Anything else you would add, Sarah?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head on that one, especially with giving it a deadline and really just promoting that you're going to be moving over to the company page. And just to top off what you had said, there's different benefits to a company page as opposed to a personal profile page. First of all, you can do a visit website button on your company page. You have multiple tabs in a company page. So about, employee size, people, so employees who are connected to that company. It really is a good landing page for your business, and especially something like the chamber. People are going to be looking for the chamber. So I would definitely just keep putting traction on there and using the other personal profiles like your own or like someone else's who's engaged with the chamber to continue to move traffic to that company page. If you guys are seeing it growing, then, build off the momentum. It'll keep coming.
Absolutely. So Linda, you're asking that about, Linda said, I'm participating as an angel investor in the Alaska Angel Conference this year. I also just led a workshop for the founders on how to pitch their businesses. That's exciting. What's the best way to start talking about this in a way that's engaging? My first question to you then, Linda, would be what engages you? Because you're very much of the target audience from what I can tell. You've done the startup thing, you've run multiple businesses. So put yourself in your target audience seat and what would engage you? What would be helpful for you? And like what Sarah Katari was connecting, pick those 3 areas of focus. So if your primary focus is pitching their business to investors, one part might be, getting over, how do you get over the nerves, the jitters of having to pitch? What are some ways, and it can be fun and humorous, and that's engaging, and that's personal. Like we all know we get jitters if we've got to go do a presentation like that. But a lot of times people don't want to talk about that because they don't want to come across like they have jitters, but call it out and own it and be, here's how you deal with that. And yes, it's intimidating, but that doesn't mean that has to be the end of it. Here's ways you can put the crowd at ease, if you will, icebreakers, things like that. So that could be a really engaging particular piece. I think Sarah's point of asking questions is one of the best ways to engage.
Linda, you're super lucky because the startup and VC community on LinkedIn is on fire right now. Like it is so active, and there's so much content out there that you could literally just replicate. Obviously, don't copy and paste, that's plagiarism, but you could take the structure of the posts or the ideas behind the posts and make them your own. So remember how I was saying that your profile could really leverage the fact that you have that insider knowledge of the startup world to get hired by a VC? Flip that. You have the investor knowledge for these startup owners, and you could talk about, what investors are really looking for. Am I looking for charisma? A little bit. What I'm really looking for is ROI. You can talk about these back end insider knowledge things that startup founders would find very, very valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Insider tips. I think that would be a great theme for one of your post days, for
and
sure.
And then just simply like how to pitch, the structure.
What to do, what not to do, Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
So I think we've covered content pretty comprehensively. Are you ready to move it along?
Pretty quick. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions on content before we move on? Okay. All right. So next I want to start touching on target market stuff and a little bit more of digging in to the target market. Jen talked about it a little bit before and was kind of showing some examples. Are there any questions or anything you guys would really like to focus in on target market aspect of stuff? And then we're going to kind of wrap it up here in about 15 minutes and kind of go back to general questions. Okay.
And if we don't have any questions, then I'm happy to share my screen and kind of show you guys a really cool way to find your target market using the People tab.
So Lillian's asking, because we're seasonal, can we address the target that way? Let's take a look. Sarah, why don't you go ahead and pull it up and
Absolutely.
see that.
And just while we're getting this set up, Lillian, by seasonal, do you mean like just summer jobs, or are you talking something more specific? And can you tell me the kinds of people that you're looking to target so I can, just do it live with you right now?
Sure. Well, if you're going to look at my actual LinkedIn, I have very little to nothing. And that's why I'm taking this webinar right now, because I've been kind of on the fence for it. But we're coming up to our seasonal spot prawn time where we sell direct to the customer. So yeah, but like today, the reason I'm not participating as much is because we're snow plowing right now. So
Okay.
because of our lifestyle, we have businesses that match our lifestyle. So we go from commercial fishing to excavating and snow plowing to trapping to I have digital support services for photo scanning and other business oriented support. So we're definitely more seasonal. So can I use my LinkedIn to sort of address some of that? I've been able to catch a little bit about the about section, and I loved the idea as a cover letter. So I'm going to hit my LinkedIn here at some point and try to update it, but it is pretty minimal if you were to look at it right now.
Yeah, and I won't be looking at your profile. I just wanted to get a little bit more inside knowledge about who you're trying to target specifically so we could look for them live together. So to address the issue of having multiple businesses that are sort of based in the seasons, that relates back to what Jen was talking about, where per profile, you really are going to want to just pick one of those businesses to focus on. So if your snowplow is really, really successful in the winter, of course, and maybe it is worthwhile to have your profile and maybe your business partner's profile dedicated to one snowplow, one commercial fishing. But it sounds like maybe that file scanning is applicable all year round. And if it's not something that is growing as quickly and is something you would like to grow, then you could focus your profile on that year round. So it sort of just depends on, strategically what you're hoping to do and where you're trying to grow and what you're willing to, of course, invest and focus on. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you very much for taking the time. I did hear Jennifer's comment on that. And I guess for us, most of our connections, networking, et cetera, know that our businesses revolve around our lifestyle. And that's what we've done for the last 40 some years. So our businesses are not new or young. They've been in existence for some time. So that's great. I appreciate your input on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'd say for LinkedIn as well, local based stuff can work really well. But if you want to get very, very good reach, you could focus on things that you could do anywhere. So I really do think, just from this very top level view, I don't know the breadth and depth of your businesses, of course, that file sharing or that scanning might be a really good way to leverage LinkedIn and get clients from not just Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Of course.
And sometimes if some of your businesses have overlap in your target audience, then that could be really effective. If you maybe, like a lot of times, snow removal is in the winter, and then there's a certain amount of landscaping or whatnot that happens in the summer. So that's an instance where the two businesses might overlap in their target audiences, because you're still connecting with owners or property managers or whomever you're trying to connect with to increase your business potential. But those two businesses play off of each other really well. So that might be an example where, again, if you have business endeavors that cross over to the same type of target audience, then you could really be effective in that arena as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely.
All right. Well, great timing, Jen. I'm going to give you the floor if that's okay. If you want to dig in a little bit, we're starting to talk target, well, a little into talking target audience. If you want to dig in a little deeper on how to kind of find the people that you're looking for.
Sounds great, guys. Thanks for that. That was the craziness for a moment. So, okay, so on the find the people that we're looking for. So I know we've talked about it on a couple of examples. So is everyone more interested in like how the search function works as far as really being able to search and find? Is that what you guys are talking about? So I'm clear. Or is it like actually establishing how and who you go after?
I think the search part would be really helpful at this point.
Yeah.
For-
I
for
think
Like just a little more how you would do it.
The logistics of how to find it. Yeah, because I think that's going to bring up some good examples of who we could connect with.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so basically we're just using the basic LinkedIn here. So there are multiple levels. There's the sales navigator and what's the other one, Sarah? There's like the premier, right?
there's Premium, Pro Finder, and Sales Navigator.
Okay.
In terms of Premium, though, I would recommend if you can't or if you're not willing to invest into Pro Finder or more, so Pro Finder or Sales Nav, don't worry about getting just the first level of Premium. I personally don't think it's worth seeing who's viewed your profile.
No kidding. So the search function is really your friend. I would definitely suggest spending some time in here. And when you're gonna dive deep in here, there's multiple ways to do it. My favorite way to do it, which is what I started on before, is really going through people first, and then going to all filters, which gives you the most. That's one way to do it. I'm going to actually backtrack and show you another way first. So if you want to go into connections, so first is people I'm already connected with. Second is people that are connected with people that I'm connected with. So I'm going to pick first just to make a point about something. And that is, so I'm connected, one of the targets I was looking for was owners. So I'm connected with 824 owners. And sometimes I think in marketing, like all things, we actually neglect the piece that we already have connections to multiple people. So I would actually start with what you already have. So go through and just do a search on maybe some categories that you're interested in, connecting with people on after you figured out your target market or a couple target markets, and then see who your connections are. Even if they're not the right, the absolute person that is exactly who you want to do business with, but if there's somebody that you know and you're connected with, they can introduce you. So I'm going to go ahead and message Jasmine. And just, you can also record a message in here. Hey, Jasmine, can we connect? Here I was. So this can be a really great way to basically go through who you have and then tell them what you're looking for. You're going to find it's kind of unusual that you have a lot more than you think that you already do to start with. So now I'm going to go to all I'm going to get out of this part. I'm going to go to all filters. And then on this part of it is pretty amazing. So you can see again, you still have the opportunity to filter by people. So the people part, as I started showing you guys before, pick your geographic part first of where you guys want to go. One thing I've been doing recently is we've been expanding into Reno, is actually putting up Reno. And then I'm going to leave it pretty broad because I don't know the companies in Reno yet that I want to connect with. I do know that I want to connect in these industries. and then results. So there's 1,400 results of people that are owners in Reno. That is a huge list. so for you guys, you know, depending on what you're doing, you might want to keep narrowing that down a little bit, narrow down by industry or narrow down by different titles to try to get down to a smaller amount. Or if you want to start with the higher amount, the 1,400, and start going through here, what LinkedIn will do automatically is it's going to show you the people that are second connections. So if I decide that I want to connect with this person, it's going to tell me somebody that we already have as a shared connection. One good opportunity would be to reach out to my shared connection and ask them to do an introduction for me. An easier way would be just to say to that person that I want to connect with, hi, I see we're both connected with Lynette. I see you're doing this kind of work. You know, we're also in the Reno area. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I think, Sarah, you had a good, what was your line that you used? Did you already share that one?
You mean for a connection message?
Like a reach out connection? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like Jen said, not in the workshop, but in the luncheon before, I was doing a little mini campaign for local agency owners in Anchorage. And I said, hey, I saw that you're connected to Jennifer and was wondering if you had anything more to talk about in regards to marketing. I think what you're doing over at insert title of business is remarkable. Would love to learn more from you here.
Yeah.
And then I put kind regards, Sarah.
Got it. So one of the things that we talked about in that first hour too was definitely the collecting the data. So one thing you could do too is once you start developing your groups like this, then you can pull the data from here and create your own lists. And most of you guys know email lists are really hard to come by anymore that are actually effective. But pretty much all of these profiles are connected to emails and contact info as well, and websites, right? So you're going to be able to pull that information. This is a little higher level project that's going to take some research to do this well, but the payoff when you look at being able to actually find the right people in your target market, if you think about the other platforms that are out there, that does not exist like it does on LinkedIn at all. You cannot search through Facebook like that easily. Google is going to give you really kind of random information, you know, usually based on businesses. So I think this is one of the most incredible pieces of it, but it does take more time, just to be clear about that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions on the search piece? Does everybody know how to do this part of it? Just like the basic search function that I was showing? Okay. Okay, awesome. So anything else question-wise? I know we're just about out of time, Adrian.
Yeah, Francie was asking about the AI tool. I think that's in the original slides that we did. So let me grab that website.
Scraping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
scraping. Let me grab that one for you, Francie, but we'll
Okay.
also send out the slides as well. And you'll get that in there. But that's a good question. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's pretty inexpensive too. So not a whole lot on that. And then I don't know, did you tell people, Sarah, that how LinkedIn is actually now also using the they're actually categorizing your content and everything like that as well?
We talked a little bit about Google indexing and we talked some about hashtags too. Did you have something else you wanted to mention?
Just once you start really getting your targets by area. So once I start connecting with a bunch of people in Reno, if I'm sharing then content about Reno and that's directly targeted towards them, you're just going to see this huge growth where the information is going to keep showing up on their pages and on their feeds like we're seeing here. So LinkedIn reacts very quickly to that. Who you connect with is directly connected with who sees your content and who engages with it. So if you can do both things at once, if you're not just connecting with people, and if you just connect with people and you don't write content, you're not going to have as much success as if you're doing both pieces together.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, to add on to that, if you can really only prioritize engagement or content, focus on engagement. You can
Agreed.
get, I mean, this is coming from a content writer. Like you can get fantastic results on LinkedIn and never post a single piece of content. Now,
That's
that's
true.
not to say that you shouldn't. Please, I cannot tarnish my work here.
Right.
Content does work really well, but again, it does have to be done well too, like we had really talked about. So if you can only do LinkedIn content really well once per week, but you can engage for 15 to 30 minutes every day, really prioritize that 15 to 30 minutes every day. Even if you can only do 10 minutes a day, you're going to have much better results than
I
anyone
agree.
who's not doing that.
Mhm.
And just to be clear, the engagement piece is like commenting on other people's posts that you're interested in, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. So we had talked a little bit about how you could go into hashtags and search by hashtag and engage in content there. If you have a really targeted list, like Jen and Adrian had explained, gutting your list for people who are just what you're trying to target, your feed will start to show things that are relevant to you as well. And then of course, DMs also get tracked. So who you're having conversations with, what you're talking about, and what's interesting in that regard. So, and I want to touch base on that AI tool a little bit on just a couple rules of thumb as well, because as LinkedIn starts to really, really knock down on using AI and using tools to, essentially spam people, you want to be very careful about not spamming people still. So with an AI tool, of course, you have this like amazing ability to send out a lot of connection requests, but I would recommend only doing 40 per day and no more. And even that is a bit much. So if you
I
can
was
really,
gonna say most of our clients, if I can get them to do 5 a day, is like awesome.
Mhm. And I personally haven't used Phantom Buster. Is that for sending connection requests or what is?
No, yeah,
yeah,
we don't recommend that at all. We don't recommend using AI for connection requests at all. What Phantom Buster does is it actually scrapes the data from the contacts you have on LinkedIn
Okay.
and puts it all into a CRM. So
Okay.
that way you're able to follow up and keep connection with people outside of LinkedIn as well. And you're keeping that data for yourself. So you're not
Yep.
depending totally on the platform.
Okay, that's awesome because there are tools out there that'll allow you to send fake connection requests and
Oh,
fake
yeah.
profile views and fake likes and even fake recommendations. Like you can get really, really in depth, and they're really seriously cracking down on using those tools because that's the tools that people are using to spam. So just be very careful about when and how you're using AI. Be very strategic about it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, awesome. That was fun going through people's profiles, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do. Yeah, I really want to see how that turns out when you guys up your profiles and you start getting all the extra, just all the extra connections and requests and start seeing LinkedIn actually as part of, your marketing plan. I'd love to hear how that goes for everybody.
Me too. I'm really excited to see how everyone gets involved, and I've actually already seen a couple of connection requests come my way, so I'm super excited to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. I'll drop my LinkedIn link just so it's easy for everyone to connect. I would love to connect with you too, and
Love
of
it.
course, I'm sure Adrian and Jennifer would as well.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Any other questions? We've got a couple more minutes. If anybody's got any other questions or things they'd like us to show again or take another look at?
Alternatively, does everyone know what their next step is from here?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, or what are your takeaways from today?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Anybody?
that was kind of my question is about the first step to take in regards to content writing. And when you're maybe this is a silly question, I don't know, but when you're making your first post, do you just kind of make it as if you've been posting about this whole time? Like, I don't know why I'm having such a mental block with this whole thing. Like, I do a lot of things from scratch all the time, but I'm like, what do I say first? That sounds natural. Maybe if you can answer that.
Yourself, just like you're talking to somebody that you just met. And yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff. But that's where having that content schedule and having, you know, a plan, like you're going to answer a question that day, really, really helps, so that you're not kind of stuck as much. So start maybe with questions that you get asked a lot. Sometimes just answering a question that you answer all the time is the easiest way to get over that writer's block. And yes, just move forward with confidence, like you've been doing this forever and you know exactly what you're doing. You'll learn and you'll evolve as you go. But the point is just to start. It's not going to be perfect. It may not even be great at first, but you just start, just jump in.
Yeah.
That's actually a perfect note. Is it takes time to build the snowball of momentum on your content. Your first month of posts are going to get crickets. I can assure you that. They may get 1 or 2 likes, they may get a comment here or there, especially if you put those questions at the end. But the reality is that because you haven't been posting content on your profile, LinkedIn hasn't been paying attention to you. So you're gonna have to kind of feed LinkedIn these breadcrumbs of, hey, I'm ready to invest. I'm ready to show up consistently. You got to kind of reprove to LinkedIn that you're here for the long haul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we had a really good question asking if video content is as effective as posting text. Jen answered it in the chat, but just for any of you who aren't viewing the chat, yes, video is amazing. The more video you can do, the better. People consume more video than they do text. So yes, LinkedIn stories, you can do that, which you can post for a little while. Yes, the paid LinkedIn is worth the cost if you're going to use the search functions and all of the different stuff. But like Sarah Katari said earlier, it's probably worth, what is the mid-level and high-level names again?
ProFinder at minimum, Sales Navigator if you're gonna go all in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, the premium.
Yeah, it is worth the cost.
Yeah.
I would say, and I don't know if you guys touched on this, that LinkedIn ads are actually terrible. So we're Facebook
right now, at least.
Yeah,
right now. I mean,
just say that right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I'm
LinkedIn
sure
groups as well. LinkedIn groups are pretty trash right now, just to put that out there. They are not like Facebook groups.
No. So LinkedIn has not figured out the ad piece the way Facebook has. They are not, like, we usually get 20 to 30 times the results on a Facebook ad campaign as we do on LinkedIn. They just, I don't understand why they haven't figured out the monetization of that yet, but anyway, they haven't. So organic is the way to go on LinkedIn. And
what's funny too is LinkedIn ads are actually more expensive.
Way more expensive. Yeah.
So it's like, what?
Makes no sense. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate everybody's time. And if you guys want so it sounds like we're going to share slides, and I asked a couple people to follow up, Rachel, and
potentially do a company page workshop would be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we focused on personal today just because it's just so much more effective. It doesn't mean you shouldn't spend time on your company page or make it good. It just doesn't have the return on investment or as fast a growth for sure.
Exactly.
But there's definitely good stuff there.
The reason that I created a company page for my LinkedIn post was so that next to my experience on my personal page, I had a logo.
Yeah.
There you go. Exactly.
The only reason.
Yeah, I have created that for multiple clients just so that their personal page look more professional. So they had the logo and everything. That's so true.
It's the reality of it. But now that I have a website, I can put that on my LinkedIn page. So.
All right.
Right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Everybody.
Thank you for engaging.
Bye. Thank you.